We're now
Are
live.
we live?
It says we're live.
I hope it's true.
I hope that you are also facing the right way. It looks like we're the right way, but you might be upside down. We'll find out. To meet my screen. Anyway, hi everybody. We're live with Andy Mientus, who
Hi.
is doing 2 shows here at Feinstein's 54 Below this August 2nd and August 3rd at 9:30 p.m. Oh, yep. It looks like you are upside down.
I'm upside down.
Sideways. Oh.
Sideways.
Let's see what we can do to. There we go. Now he's not. Is he?
Is that better?
I think we're better. We're gonna refresh and double check.
This is like a really fancy operation we have here.
Yeah.
It's like really,
Really chill.
it's really chill.
Yep, we're all good,
We're good.
now.
Hey!
And so if you missed it in our little technical difficulties, we are live with Andy Mientus, who is doing his solo show with the Teen Commandments August 2nd and 3rd at 9:30 p.m. at Feinstein's 54 Below. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you.
So, Andy, can you tell us a little bit about your upcoming show this August?
Yeah, so I'm so excited to finally do some cabaret shows here at 54 Below, Finance 54 Below. I've been afraid of this for a very long time. People have sort of been asking for a couple of years if I would do one, and it really scares me to death, frankly. But this year, I've been developing this musical with my friends, this band Teen Commandments, who are Van Hughes, Brett Moses, and Nick LaGrasta. We've been working on a musical for the last 2 years-ish, and we're getting ready to have some news about that. And in the meantime, we have a lot of material to share that we feel ready and excited to share. So I thought with their support, I could muster the courage to do a show of my own. So for the first half of the show, it's going to be me with the band going through some favorite songs of ours, songs from musicals, pop songs, really sort of like exploring our well of influences that we've been drawing from to write this show, but with their spin on it. So like, you're never going to hear me just singing a musical theater song with a solo piano or like some strings, or sort of the thing that you're used to hearing in this room downstairs. There's going to be like synths and drum machines, and should just be like our really interesting takes on songs that you think you know very well. So that'll be the first half of the show, and then the second half of the show we'll move into material from our show, which is called Manhattan Kids, which that's when we'll bring out our amazing guests, which we're going to announce really soon. We're going to have, I think, like 5 really amazing guests come and help us sing through, I think, like 6 songs from the show, which will be world premieres. So we're really, really excited.
So exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about Manhattan Kids?
Yeah, so it's it's an original show. It's not based on anything, and really what it's based on is experiences that me and my friends had when we moved to the city now a couple of years ago. When I was in my early 20s, I was just sort of dramatizing them as a series of vignettes, really, sort of like Company or something like that, like sort of unrelated scenes where in every scene it was new characters. And one of the characters was a musician, and so there were some songs that I just wrote formless sort of lyrics for, and I brought them to my friend Van Hughes, because he's an amazing musician, and I was like, oh hey, could you maybe like explore writing some of these songs, fleshing out these lyrics and making them songs. And so he did. They were really amazing, and to support him in that, he brought on the rest of this band, which he would later come to become a full part of, which is Teen Commandments. He wasn't at the time. And as we were writing songs together, it really started to feel like it wanted to become a full musical, not just a play sort of with music. And then over a couple of years of development, it went from being these really disparate scenes, this collection of scenes, to being sort of one narrative through line that we've been working on. So without getting too much into it, because it's a totally original plot, I don't want to like bore you with the details, but it's a story about young people moving to New York, hoping to follow their dreams, that sort of not going the way that they planned. And then it becomes really about the like public story that we tell the world versus the private story of what's really going on with us, via like social media, via just the fronts that we put up in person with people. We tell the story publicly of who we are, who we think we are, who we want people to think we are, and that often is very different from the truth. So the show sort of explores that.
That's so exciting.
Oh, and the big takeaway that I'm most excited about, other than just the plot of it all, is that the music is all by this band, Teen Commandments. And if you get really curious, you can go hear their music right now on SoundCloud, or they've got an EP that I'm sure is on Spotify, and there's stuff on YouTube. But the music is all very much in the world of synth pop. It really, I think, we've really worked hard to make it not sound like something you've heard before in a musical. We really wanted you to be able to like play the album and for no one around you to know that you're listening to a musical, that it's to sound totally indistinguishable from songs you hear on the radio like right now. So that's our goal. And you can let us know after the show if we succeeded or not.
That's so exciting.
Thanks.
For those just tuning in, we're here with Andy Mientus, and who is telling us about his Feinstein's 54 Below show on August 2nd and 3rd. He'll be appearing with the Teen Commandments, who he's also writing the new show Manhattan Kids with. We've got a couple of questions from the people online. Since we were talking about Manhattan Kids and Teen Commandments, what drew you to working with the Teen Commandments?
Well, it just happened really by chance. As I said before, I wrote my friend Van, who I really didn't know that well at the time, actually. I just knew he'd come to my birthday party in Los Angeles because we had a mutual friend. My 22nd birthday party he came to. I knew that he was an amazing like multi-instrumentalist, and I knew that he was in this world that I was trying to write about. And so I just asked him to like try to write these songs, and he said yes, and he just pulled his friends to help him with that, and they ended up forming this band together, Teen Commandments, and it really was just one of those serendipitous things. Like it was totally by chance, but I really couldn't have done better. Like they are the perfect people to score this world that we're trying to create and this story that we're trying to tell. And they're also just like amazing guys and amazing performers. I'm so excited for the theater community to get to know them, because like they're a blast, and they so belong in this world actually.
So exciting. Let's see. Let's start with a fun question. This is from Riley on Twitter.
Hi,
at
Riley.
Actually Riles. What hair product do you use?
Oh my god, none at the moment. That's why I'm wearing a hat. While I was working on The Flash, I was introduced to a product called Layrite, Layrite, which is a water-soluble pomade. So this would mostly be for like the gentlemen out there, or like the ladies with short hair, because it's definitely like a pomade, but it's water-soluble, so like it works really well. And then when you like get in the shower, it just comes right out. You don't have to like scrub. It gets off your hands really easily, so it's really great.
Great. So you just mentioned The Flash. So
Yes.
What was it like playing the Pied Piper on The
Oh my
Flash?
gosh, it's the best. It's the best. I mean, it's a total, like, I'm a huge nerd in my life. So to like put on a cape and put on these like gloves that light up and like shoot, beams at a guy in a costume and like say these like nefarious sort of like villain lines standing on top of a car in Canada. I mean, it was insane. It was like every single day was like a pinch me moment. And that cast and crew is so delightful to work with. Like, TV can be really stressful because there's like never enough time. So like everyone's exhausted. It's either early in the morning or late at night, and everyone's just working really hard. So it can be a really tense atmosphere. And that show, like, never. Like, everyone is super friendly, works really hard, really efficient, and we end up having like a great deal of fun too. So
People want to know if they're going to see you on it again.
Ugh, girl, you know as much as I do. We'll see. It seems that way, doesn't it? It seems that way.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Moving along. Let's. Speaking of more TV stuff.
Yeah.
You got to perform on the Tony Awards recently with the cast of Deaf West Spring Awakening.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. How was it?
Oh my god, it was so incredible because we just really didn't think it would happen, like really at all. Like we didn't think we were going to get a nomination because there were, it wasn't a guarantee at all. And we'd been closed since January, so we like didn't think that was going to happen. So then it happened, and we were like, wow, well, what a great like period on the sentence, because surely we'll like never be able to get everyone back together. Like the cast at that point had scattered to the winds. You know, we hadn't been like rehearsing the number. We hadn't been doing it nightly the way all the other shows had been. And there was no production to sell tickets to, so there was no reason for the producers to have the like means to make it happen. So like, because there was no production anymore, it didn't exist anymore. So that doesn't happen ever. So I just never thought that it would happen. And then like someone had the idea to crowdfund, and thank God it worked. And so then it was just like a total love fest. Like the pressure was off. You know, we knew we weren't gonna win, but we didn't need to either. We didn't like need the performance to go a certain way to try to sell tickets to stay open, because that's really what it's all about, right? Like the Tonys is a great big commercial for all the shows involved so that their shows can keep running. And we didn't have that pressure. It was just like a reunion and a celebration of what we had done, and like really the perfect ending to that story. Like to be able to do that in front of the entire world in a way that will last forever. You know, like that clip will be out there forever and ever. And then to get in fancy dresses and party all night long. I mean, it was just the greatest.
People have been wanting to know, what's your favorite sign?
It changes. I really like the sign for obsessed. You like it's an index to your head, your forehead, I guess, and then middle finger to the back of your closed fist, and then it rotates toward the thing that you're obsessed with. So like if I'm obsessed with you, I'm obsessed. I just think it's a great sign. What are other signs that are fun? I don't know. We'll come back to that. I'm sure someone will come to that.
Are you using sign language more often now?
Not as often as I was, for sure, because my friends are all, you know, in other places. When I get back to LA, that's where most of the deaf kids went. So hopefully I'll get to hang out with them and get to sign a lot more. But I weirdly sign a lot with Michael. Like, you know, he's excuse me, he's totally fluent. So like if we're out and it's loud, you know, like we were at Coachella, and so we were signing to each other. We sign when like one of us is brushing our teeth, you know, like, things like that. It comes in handy in a lot of like weird ways that you don't expect. It's like when you're across a room from somebody. I really wish everyone knew it, because it's like very useful.
Yeah. Alex, who is at Combe Fair, I definitely pronounced that wrong, but
Comfair, that's a Les Mis thing.
There's a bay in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Oh.
But Alex wants to know, what other productions would you like to see Deaf West tackle?
Oh my God, that's a great question. I have been saying, and this is probably because these things were coming to fruition at the same time, but I've been saying the best that I can think of possible next musical for them to do would be Hunchback, for sure, because there's deafness in the story, like Quasimodo is deaf, and it's about communicating, just like Spring Awakening was. It was about otherness and not being afraid to like be outside of the group that you think that you're in, you know, and being an outsider and not being heard, and wanting to be heard, wanting to join the world, which are things that I think resonate with the deaf audience and resonate with every audience, and could be really aided by that story. One of the productions, and sad to say I can't totally recall which, it might be Sacramento, but I might be lying, so Google it. One of the summer productions of Hunchback that's going on, because now it's available for regionals to do, has cast a deaf Quasimodo, which I think is like unbelievable. So I wish that I could see that. I know that I probably will not be able to, but maybe someday.
Kelsey, are there any live questions coming in?
Yeah, I actually got a recent Twitter question that was pretty nice.
Yeah, let me have it.
If you could choose one of the characters you've played to be best friends with, who would it be?
Oh my God, not Hanshin.
Fair.
That's a great question. Probably Marius, right? Like, I feel like he's a really good friend. He's like a really good person, and like is scattered, like myself. Like doesn't always make the best choices, but like has a really good heart, and I think that's important.
Who would beat you in a fight?
Who would beat me in a fight? Hanshin. Yeah, for sure. Because he might not be physically strong, but he's like super smart and could like just like figure something out.
Yeah. Here's one from Jacob Dieters on Facebook.
Hi, Jacob.
What show would you like to be revived on Broadway, and what part would you want to be?
Oh my God. Taboo. I've been saying it forever. Although I don't know that it should be on Broadway. Like, my ideal revival of Taboo would be like in a bar in the East Village, you know what I mean? Like, and I'd want to be George, because it's like the greatest role of all time, for me, anyway. So that's like definitely a dream role. Big River, for sure. That was my first job, my first equity job was doing Big River. And I don't feel done with it yet, so I would love the chance to do it again while I still can, before it's totally ridiculous. I'll think of more.
Yeah. So we're here with Andy Mientus, who's doing 2 solo shows at Feinstein's 54 Below this August, but he's been at the club many times before.
Many times.
Oftentimes you'll see him with his hit list smash friends, Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy Jordan. So Sarah wants to know, what show would you like to do with them?
Oh my god.
Besides Hit List, because we all want to see it again.
Yeah, that's a great question. Tick Tick Boom would be a perfect show for the 3 of us. Even though we're all white. Well, Chris is not white, but you know, we should get more color in there, but I would love to do that show just selfishly. Floyd Collins. I would love to do Floyd Collins with Jeremy and Krista. I think that'd be amazing.
Would you be Floyd or Homer?
I would, that's a good question. I would say that I am more of a Homer, and I know that Jeremy would want to be Floyd. But I don't have the high C at the end of the riddle, so we'd have to figure something out.
Krista can just jump in and throw something
Yeah,
in there.
no, Jeremy has it. Jeremy has the C for sure. He might be Floyd with the C. He might I might have to give it to him.
Yeah. If you could play opposite any actor or actress, who would you want to play?
Oh my god. Reed Birney. Reed Birney. We did a pilot together that sadly never saw the light of day. Didn't get picked up, and we didn't have any scenes together, and he was playing another character's father, so like we probably wouldn't have had any scenes together even if the show had gone. I can't imagine a world where that would have happened, but I just think he's the best actor and the best guy. I've seen like kind of his collected works over the years. I've somehow like been lucky to see almost everything that he's done, and I just think he's extraordinary.
Danielle at It's Danielle wants to know, what show do you think influenced you the most growing up?
Rent, for sure. For sure, Rent. It was like one of the first musicals I ever saw. And then when I was growing up, my extended family lived in New York, just outside the city. And so when we would come to visit them, we'd come into the city and we'd always see Rent and some other show. Or I would see Rent by myself, and then me and my family would see another show. So over the years, I saw Rent like dozens of times, many times, and it was my first introduction to like queerness and being an artist in New York, and it just like really not only made me want to do theater, musical theater, but made me want to like live here and be a part of the fabric of what I thought it meant to be an artist in New York. So it really shaped me in like lots of ways.
Aaliyah at Allie H. Rojo wants to know, what is your worst audition story?
Oh my god. My worst audition story ever. I've told this story before, so I'm sorry if I'm boring you. There's a couple actually. The worst, I would say, is I was auditioning for a movie, and I had to do a Shakespeare monologue in the audition. And the night before, I got in a huge fight with somebody, and was up all night having like full out drama all night long. And the audition was at like 9:30 or something in the morning, so it was too early. Like most agents' offices open at 10. So like if it had been in the afternoon or like even at 11 o'clock, I would have called my agent and said like, I can't go in, you have to cancel it, tell them I'm sick or something. But it was too early to do that, and I didn't want to just not show up because that's bad. So I decided that I was going to stay up the rest of the night, not sleep, but just stay up all night and do all the work that I hadn't been doing all night on this monologue. Memorize it, you know, make some choices and go in and try and nail it. It's Shakespeare, like you can't make it up. You can't like just ad-lib it, you know. And so I went in and I started, and then I totally went up, I totally forgot it, and I was like kind of stammering in the camera, like the little red light was blinking, and I'm like, oh my god. And you can just see, I'm sure, like everything that was happening, and I'm sure I looked like a crazy person because I'd been up all night. And the casting associate sort of like reached over and was like, it's okay. And I burst into tears in the room. I was like, I have to go, I'm sorry, I'm having a bad morning. And she's like, it's okay. So there's a video of that somewhere, because like they definitely filmed the whole thing. And I went into the street and cried, and it was really terrible.
Oh. Have you ever thought about directing?
Yeah. So I've talked about this before, but Michael and I, when we came up with the idea for Spring Awakening for Deaf West, we were going to co-direct it because we very much like came up with it together. And so we did a workshop for like 10 days in LA, in downtown LA with Deaf West, where we staged the opening, Mama Who Bore Me Reprise, Touch Me, and Purple Summer. And then we did some work on, we never actually staged it, but we started the ASL translations for Sadness, Blue Wind, and like worked with it a little bit. And Daniel Durant was in that. He was the only cast member to remain all the way through the process, but he played Otto in that, so he was on top of that ship signing. But we came up with that during that workshop. And that was where we made like really crucial decisions about like, you know, that the deaf actors would actually be deaf, and that like, you know, that the characters would be deaf, not just the actor playing the character, and like who would be deaf and why, and you know, things like that. And so that workshop convinced Deaf West to greenlight this production for that would have been the fall, I think, of that year. And then in the interim, I got cast in Les Mis on Broadway, and this production, the first production, Spring Awakening, was meant to be at a 99-seat theater where, like, I think we actually, like, spent money. Like, no one made any money. Like, I think, like, Michael actually ended up spending some money. And for the workshop, we definitely spent our own money. And that sort of continued through the process. Like, the school chairs that you saw on the Tony Awards, we bought on Craigslist in LA. Me and Michael bought on Craigslist and put them in the back of our car with, like, our bare hands. Like, it was really DIY, the whole thing. And so, yeah, so I really wasn't in a position to not, like, make that paycheck because I was really broke at the time because I hadn't worked in a while. So I went ahead and did that and, you know, sort of handed over the reins to Michael fully, and he mounted that first production. And then the only reason I came back to it as an actor is because Joey Harrow, who played Hanshin at the 99 seat in LA, got a film before the Wallace run. And the Wallace run was really just going to be like 3 weeks of like bonus, like just a victory lap, like no intention ever of going to Broadway. And so they needed somebody. I knew the role from doing it on the tour, and I knew sign language from the workshop. So I was like, well, if you can't find anyone else, I'll do it. And I ended up doing it, and then the rest is history. So I got my feet wet in that way, and I really enjoyed it. And I would definitely like to do that.
Nathan Clift wants to know what advice you have for actors studying musical theater and acting in college.
Oh my God. I would say, as a student, it's really different advice from like what I would tell an actor that's out of school. As a student, I would say that acting is the most, in my opinion, is the most important of the disciplines. It's hard to know where to focus your energies when you're studying so many things. Like, I went to a university where not only was I in my core acting and dancing and singing and music classes, but I was also taking like history and language and, you know, regular college classes. And I think, in my experience so far of my short little career, the acting is the thing that sort of propels all the other disciplines. You know, like, I've seen some really amazing performances by people that weren't the best singer in the world or weren't the best dancer, but man, if they like act the hell out of it, I forget it all. Like, they're just telling a story. And in my experience, everybody eventually wants to move into like television or movies or doing plays, because it's really hard to do musicals for a long time. It's hard on your body, it's hard on your voice. They don't pay very much typically. So I think having that foundation to inform all the other parts of what you're doing and to be there for you if you ever decide that you just can't warm up anymore. Like, your just voice as you age doesn't do what you thought it would anymore. I think it's really important.
Let's do 2 more from Kelsey, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, first question from Facebook is, what is your gender swapped dream role?
Sally Bowles. Absolutely. In fact, I've like thought before, like, okay, could I play Sally Bowles? Could it be like a cool story about, like, is she in drag? Is she trans? Like, could I actually play Sally Bowles without comment? And then I'm like, oh no, shit, she gets pregnant. So she's a woman. She's a cisgendered woman. But I would love to play Sally Bowles. I think it is the greatest role in all of musical theater.
Maybe work that into your show.
Maybe. Maybe.
All right, and then this one's from Jake on Facebook. What is the biggest stage mishap you've ever been a part of?
Oh God. I would say the greatest stage mishap I've ever been a part of, because it actually turned out quite well, was in Spring Awakening at the Wallace. So the second run in LA, pre-Broadway. At our first preview, during And Then There Were None, Alex Boniello, who was the voice of Moritz, was meant to sing and play the song and at a stand with a microphone on it, and that's how he would be heard, while we do all this crazy action down front that was really hard, the most complicated stuff in the show, because Daniel Durant, who played Moritz, who's profoundly deaf, can't hear anything. Like, he doesn't wear hearing aids, he can't hear a sound. So he relied on a lot of secret sort of cueing that we would give him. Like, we'd take the paper and he would start signing, or he'd tap twice on his thigh and he would start signing, things like that, so that he would know where he was in the music. So we had incredibly complicated staging going on downstage, and I'm about to enter for the scene, and I see our ASM standing there with a microphone, like panicking. She's like, and I was like, is he supposed to have that? Is that supposed to be on stage? She's like, yes. So I was like, okay, I'll take it, because I didn't have the first cues for Daniel, and mine came later. So I took it, I go out on stage, and I'm expecting the stand to be there, so just like, I'll put it on the stand and go back to what I'm doing, and the stand isn't there. Like, none of it got set, because it was the first preview. They were still like charting all the tracking of everything. So I was like, well, and the music's starting, and Alex is like panic in his eyes, and I was like, okay, I'll hold it. So I'm just holding the mic up to his mouth and like kind of like rocking out while he's singing, and we're like, okay, this is going well. And then I'm like, oh shit, in my head I'm thinking, oh shit, my cue is coming up for Daniel. What am I gonna do? And I like turn to look, and at that moment, without me even having to do anything, somebody else, I think Josh, I can't remember exactly, but one of the other boys came up and took the mic from me and continued holding it, and I went over and gave Daniel his cue. And then for the rest of the song, having never rehearsed this, with half of the cast totally deaf, on the fly, we did this, where we traded off the mic and like sold it too. Like, the boys were like rocking out to the point that it seemed totally part of the show, and we got through the number, and we didn't miss a single cue. He was never not with the microphone. We got through the entire thing, and we got off stage and we're like, what the fuck? Like, it was the most. It was like we won the Super Bowl. It was amazing, and in that moment, I knew that we were like an ensemble. Like, that was the moment where I knew that it was special.
That's so awesome. So we're gonna wrap up, but I want to. Do you want to give a quick little pitch about your show again, coming this August?
Yeah. So we're doing 2 nights at Feinstein's 54 Below with the band Teen Commandments, and it will be an amazing mashup of pop songs that inspired us, musical theater songs in ways that you've never heard them before that inspired us, and then 6 premiere songs from our musical Manhattan Kids that we've been working really hard on, and I really think people are gonna be really excited about. It'll be the first time anyone is hearing them anywhere, and that portion of the show will feature guests that I'm really excited to announce, because they're people that you're gonna be excited to see. So
stay tuned on all of our social media channels to find out who these guests might be and more about Andy's upcoming show, and you can purchase tickets at 54below.com.
Yay!
Thank you so much,
Come
Andy,
see
for
us.
coming in.
Thank you. Bye, guys.